I can't even count on both hands the amount of times that I haven't released something or held back from making a particular video because I thought that I would have sounded dumb, or I thought that piece of content didn't hold up to a quality standard that I expected from myself, which is terrifying because you never know what kind of impact your content is going to have on someone. Think about all the times that you've been profoundly and deeply impacted by a piece of content that someone else has released. Maybe it's a video or a movie or a photo or a song. And now I want you to imagine that that artist, for whatever reason, maybe they felt a little dumb or they didn't like the way they looked, decided that they weren't going to release that piece of content. Think about you missing out on that piece of content and how much you wish you could tell them how deeply that content affected you. That's why you can't let your desire for perfect stop you from releasing something, because you never know what kind of effect that content is going to have on someone. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Whenever I create something that I'm particularly proud of, maybe something that exceeds my expectations or even exceeds what I deem as my ability or the upper level of my ability, in that moment I feel a mixture of two things. One is a feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of excitement I get when I put my pen down, put whatever I'm doing down and know that I've done the best that I can for that project. Even if there's imperfections in the work, I know that I can comfortably sit back and say that that project is done. And two, a pretty overbearing feeling of doubt. A doubt brought on by the realization that I've done this now, and now I have to go and do it again. Rather than letting myself enjoy those moments of accomplishment or giving myself the time to be proud of the work that I've just created, my mind pretty quickly jumps to, how am I possibly going to pull this off again? And that's only really the times where I actually let myself put these projects into the completed bin. If you give me enough time to look at a project that I've completed, literally anything that I've done, I'll write you a laundry list a mile long of everything that I could have done better in that project. And it's difficult for me to know if this is a good thing or a bad thing too, because I really admire those artists out there that put everything they have into every project they make. So putting this never finished mentality into the box of this is simply a bad habit that I have to get rid of just isn't realistic, because there's still a lot of me that really admires that mindset. There's another word for this feeling. It's called perfectionism. It's the expectation that I have that somehow my path creatively is linear, a constant incline with zero opportunities for outliers or errors, just a steady ride up the hill where each piece I make is just as good, if not better than the last. But the reality is that life isn't like that, and creativity certainly isn't like that. Sometimes I make stuff that just flat out sucks. And sometimes the stars align and I make things that are well above what I'm currently capable of. Yet both of those pieces, the good and the bad, even if they're accidental, are just as important as each other to getting me to my masterpiece. But the mentality of perfectionism doesn't leave any room for those moments where things don't work out creatively. It doesn't leave any room for me to try new things and test my creativity on mediums that I wouldn't normally do. It only leaves room for me to stay in that lane of perfectionism. It only accommodates for those moments where the stars align and what I make exceeds my expectations, and then demands that I pick up my camera again tomorrow and do the exact same thing again. There's the old saying that's really corny but incredibly true, and that's that you have to take one step back to take two steps forward. But with the demands of these social media platforms that we all create for, and with the constant flow of content that we see on a daily basis from creators all over the world, it's impossible to find the time or the place to take that step backwards. Social media encourages repeat action, and repeat action goes against the very word creativity. Creativity is defined as the use of imagination or original ideas to create something. Or in other words, it's an ability to be inventive, the ability to conjure up new ideas and create things that haven't been created before. This adventurous originality, this true form of what creativity is impossible to focus on when perfect is my only option. Forget about the possibility of trying something new because I'm always focusing on doing what has already worked. But they say what got you here is not going to get you there. So how do I keep myself focused on adventurous originality rather than this perfectionist mindset that I've gone back and forth with over the years. One thing that I've always tried to uphold in my own work, one thing that I've maintained as a little bit of a mantra in my own life creatively, is the idea of quality over quantity. Creating something that is truly unique and something that stands on its own as a powerful piece of content is immeasurably valuable. There have been times where people have built their entire careers off one incredible piece of content. But something I've noticed more recently with people I admire, and something I've been trying to incorporate into my own life, is the benefit of being relentless. Being that artist that puts out thousands and thousands of pieces of content over the course of their lifetime. I'm calling these people relentless because even though they have a massive amount of quantity, and you would think from the outside looking in that they're focused on quantity, I don't think this is their only focus when creating their work. I just think they've managed to develop a level of trust for their own creativity, and they've taught themselves to understand one simple thing, that every single piece they make means everything and nothing at the same time. They understand that what they create is something that simultaneously carries a massive amount of potential, but is also just a small part of their entire library of work that they have made and will make throughout their entire career. I am certainly still figuring this out for myself, but I think I currently sit somewhere in the middle of someone who is a perfectionist trying to be more relentless. There are times where I feel suffocated by perfectionism. I never want to create or release something that's half-assed. It makes me feel horrible, and that feeling usually doesn't disappear for a few days. There's people that tell me, they're like, just create something and release it, and once you hit upload, you'll be fine, but that doesn't usually change for me. Usually I feel pretty shitty about something that I make that isn't up to my standards for a few days after releasing it. And the hardest part about all that is that, like I described earlier, it comes from a good place. So I can't really just decide that it's a bad habit that I need to get rid of, because it's all derived from a desire to uphold a level of quality, to create at a standard that I've come to expect from myself, and I think that others have come to expect from me. Because the interactions that I have with people, every single time I release something, those interactions are short. They're short-lived. So I want to make that interaction as good as I possibly can. And for the times that that interaction is our first meeting, the first time you see something from me online, I want that to be a good first impression. I think everyone would agree with me that they want the first time that someone sees their work to be a good experience. I think that's fair. But the stupidest part about all of this is that the pursuit of a perfectionist is futile, because perfect doesn't exist. It's a forever moving target. The closer that you think you get to it, the further away that target gets. This whole idea and the topic of this video is a constant back and forth in my own mind, and it's something that I don't think I've fully fleshed out yet. I think even whilst I'm making this video, I'm not sure where I fully stand on this, but I have come up with a phrase that I've started telling myself more and more that has really helped me sort of come to terms with those moments where I feel myself being strangled by perfectionism. It's the idea that quality will come from quantity. It's a comfort in knowing that a focus on creating anything will carry you way further than a focus on creating something perfect. And I agree, the only way to achieve long-term success as a creative is through high-quality content. Whether that be your story or your visuals or just the way you do things, there needs to be that X factor for you to succeed as a creator. But I think that I've had this whole perspective as to how I'm supposed to get to that level of quality a little bit backwards. This idea, this phrase, quality will come from quantity, has just given me an out. It's given me an out in those moments where I'm being controlled by my perfectionist mindset, where I'm feeling like my quality isn't up to the standards that I've set for myself, even if those standards are ridiculous. And it's helped me put projects down. It's helped me put this script down. I have gone back and forth with the script for this video for ages, and it got me to the point where I had to remind myself, Tom, you're making a video about the very thing you're struggling with. So this proves that this is still something I'm going through, but it's something that has helped me move through those issues. It's helped me understand that even if I make something that's below my strict standards of quality, that very act is still on the path to quality. Quantity will lead to quality. And by keeping this one phrase in mind, suddenly no single piece of content that I create holds more weight than it should. By seeing my creative work for what it actually is, just one small piece in my entire library of work that I have and will created throughout my entire lifetime, each piece of content suddenly means everything and nothing at the same time. This YouTube video, for example, is an opportunity for someone to discover me for the first time. It's an opportunity to have that first encounter, or hell, it could be an opportunity where the algorithm decides that it's going to love this video and it blows up and changes my entire career. But at the exact same time, it's just another video that will go into the library of hundreds of videos I've already made and will become a small part of the library of thousands of videos that I will make throughout my entire career. That sounds daunting, but strangely, that very fact gives me confidence. By recognizing that one thing, now I can go and create the things that I'm inspired to create, the things that I actually want to create without the expectations that I've placed on myself. And it's also given me time to try new things, to experiment, to connect with that adventurous originality that I was talking about earlier. To do things that might not necessarily work out, might not lead to anything, but are generally a part of this creative path, this journey to quality. Because now everything I create, rather than being overbearing and important, it's just a small part of the bigger picture of my entire career. I think that my desire to create things that hold up to a level of quality that I've set for myself is great. Don't get me wrong, I really do believe that my disciplined pursuit of perfection is what drives me to try new things. It's what drives me to learn things, and it's what keeps me passionate about this craft. But it's when I all too often cross that line from disciplined pursuit to perfection that level of quality becomes unhealthy. When this happens, I feel like I'm stuck in a box within these very ridiculously strict guidelines around how and what I can create. But even though I'm aware of this when it's happening, even though I know when this is happening, it's difficult to break away from because obsession can oftentimes feel productive. So I've written this phrase on a little post-it note and pasted it on my computer monitor because I need to remind myself of it all too often. If you shift your mindset towards simply creating more, suddenly the process of getting better is nailed down to nothing more than time and effort. I'm just encouraging you to adopt the mindset of quality will come from quantity. It really is as simple as that. Even though it is something that I need a post-it note in front of me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to remember, it is really as simple as that. And this doesn't mean that I'm encouraging you to embrace a life of nothing but crappy content. I'm not telling you that at all. Because amongst that quantity, inevitably gems will blossom. Pieces of content that you'll be incredibly proud of and will far exceed what you thought you were currently capable of. But I just want you to know that that content doesn't have to become your new standard to stick to. That content doesn't have to become something that you have to uphold. It's just a nice outlier that's part of your journey to quality. Because just as often as you do that, you're going to make things that miss the mark, make things that you aren't as proud of, and for a lack of a better term, make things that are just a little bit shit. But don't let those moments undermine all the work that you've put in up until this point. Remember how far you've come and try to remind yourself that that piece is just a small and valuable part of the quantity that will eventually lead to your quality.